Okay, here we are. We're just getting into the studio this morning. Make sure that everybody has access. Good morning. How are you doing? Hi, everyone. If you have the ability to put in the chat, go ahead and say hi. Now, hopefully the quality is better. You know, one thing with watercolor is just like life. It's all about flexibility. And this last week, hi, nice to see you there. And Gay and Sue, hello, everyone. So it, it's, I just did this interview for Watercolor Live, and I didn't let you all know about it because I just didn't know how it was going to go. Well, it wasn't Watercolor Live. It was an interview for him, and next week is Watercolor Live. And what we're doing is using this platform right here that you're on. Oh, thank you, Gay. And the difference with this is that there is a lag time. I don't get to see you like in the meetings, and trying to deal with the internet quality. So basically, like I said, watercolor is like flexibility. This is flexibility. Anything live is. So what my plan is today, it's great to see a lot of people coming in here. We had a problem with the interview a little bit. I kept getting bumped off, and I hope that this doesn't happen today, but it's a really good one. I'm going to go ahead and put it. You already saw it in our groups. I'm sure you did because I ended up posting it. It's a lot of information. And what I'll do is also send an email out to everybody about it. And once I have a chance. So I'm not actually in my regular studio, as you can tell. So this is my secondary mock-up studio. So I don't have access to everything that I usually have, but, and I don't like the lighting in here as much. We'll see how it all goes. And let's see, next week we have the Watercolor Live, and I'm going to be there. But what I wanted to also tell you is, you really, if you're not going there, you're getting, if you're enrolled in the Watercolor in Motion or the Beyond the Courses or any of those groups or my classes, you're getting a ton of the information that I'm already saying that day. So I'm following their lead on what they wanted me to do, just so you know. All right. So what I wanted to do is do a demonstration on what we were working on last week. And remember, I told you I was going to go ahead and work on that rose. The other thing I wanted to do, because there were a few questions that came in, I want to show you, like if I wanted to store my color, hopefully I don't have these all glazed out like that. So I'll try to make it down a little bit so you don't just constantly see that reflection. But to organize your color, let's look at that, because you have some other options that you can do. Like I wanted to show you what I do. Actually, before I go there, let's talk about this. You can put them in plastic bags. If you have a lot of the same color, just put them in the same bag. And I'll try to get rid of this for a minute so you don't have that constant distracting reflection. Put them in little bags, little pint-sized bags if you want to, and then just by color or by brand. So I do it that way. Like if I have a ton of Daniel Smith color, I know that's going to react like differently. So I'll keep that in a different section. So let's take a look at how I organize it. Okay, so what I have is a big tray that goes up like that. I'm sure you've seen this. This is at Michael's. It has little drawers of different colors. So I made little dividers out of foam core, and then I just labeled them. Let's go ahead and take a look at this so you can get a better idea. Let's see. Let's go through these. Oh, I have to remember to go back. This is just so different than the StreamYard. So let me get over to the side and let's start up here. So let's try to go a little slower there. Now I know you get the idea. I just want you to see how I have it set up. So if you look at this, sometimes I'll have little bags, or if I'm traveling, you know, it's not really anything ingenious, but it's just something like I like to have it. Like here I have my Windsor blue, or I'll have different particular blues. Now something I just got at Michael's that I really like, and it looks like it was something that they had designed for little washi tape rolls, but it's a perfect little tray that fits inside a box. And I really like this because if you have a lot of colors, then this is something I would possibly suggest. And it doesn't have to exactly be this, I just want you to see what I have. Now, since I don't use the Daniel Smith colors all the time, I really want to be able to look at my colors, just so you have an idea. And there's 2 trays that fit on top of it. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, when you're trying to get your color out of the tube, we don't want to waste any part of it. So this is a great tool. You can also use a toothpaste roller, anything to get that last little bit out of it. Just like that. The other thing I did, because I had just a little bit of some color left of this one favorite color, I don't remember what it was, I just used some pliers so I could get all the last little bit out of here. The other thing is, if you have a really dry tube, just split it like right down the middle there and use it as a pan color if you needed to. Now, what do these shoes have to do with anything? What I wanted you to see is that you can also use this, something like that, and organize your colors here and hang it on the back side of a door. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. All right, and then let's go back over here. And let's see, let's take a look at a couple of the paintings. So let's see, where did everything go? There we go. This is I don't have my giant screen in front of me, so it's just a little, just different, flexible. All right, so we talked all about that. And before I look at a few landscapes, I wanted to, let's look at the landscapes first, because I think this is really important for you. Let's see, we're going to go there and find this. Okay, now Mary sent in quite a few of these, and we talked a little bit about this last week, and I thought, let's see, let's go here. There we go. We talked a little bit about this last week and how you can create that foundation of just blended color. And let's take a look. Okay, and get this into that you can see this large. All right, great. All right, so great job up here. And it's just been interesting to watch what you're doing, because this is also very it's helpful for everyone. So when you get your water and color on there, you're allowing it to move. So you're getting that smooth transition of color. And Sue, if you remember, you may or may not, I know your ears just perked up when I said your name. If you remember where it is in the class, just put in the chat so everybody can get a better idea. Now, this is beyond the watercolor courses and also within my watercolor emotion group. What we're trying to do, and our atmospheric class that we're doing right now, we're working on getting that blended color, building color intensity. And what I see here is that you're doing a great job, and try to avoid going back in with your brush because you're lifting some of the color out, but it's a great foundation. So this, I wanted you to see what she's got. And now let's take a look and see how she applied it into some landscapes. So using that idea as a foundation back here, she came in, added a mountain, which is great, and then a little sand spit over here, which is great. Now we need to continue to work a little bit with values, and I'll talk more about that in my atmospheric landscape course, but you're right on track. And what I really wanted everybody to see is that you can create that smooth blended color and then create a landscape on top of it. But for Mary, what I'd like you to do is do not go back in with the brush. Put the water and color on the surface and lift and tilt and move it around and let it dry, let it settle. Once it's completely dry, this goes for everyone, come back in and then you can reapply another layer once it's completely dry. Now she also came back in and did some other landscapes. So I wanted you to see what she's got. Now, it's not that there's a reason why I don't want Mary to feel uncomfortable that I'm pointing out her work, or that or others are wondering, why am I choosing her work? Because it's universal. It's everyone. It's a common thing. And because like when we want to make a little lake or something like that, we're looking at trees, successful trees, and the water. So my comment to her, and I think she also put another one. Let's see. Let me go down here. I said, be careful that you have too many straight lines. So if you can see here, we've got a straight line this way. We have a straight line this way and a straight line that way. We don't meander through the painting. We only look at those hard edges. That's the same thing that goes for when we're creating a painting and you have hard and soft edges. So let's say you have, a floral or a landscape. When it's soft and blended, our imagination just goes there. But if we have that hard line, we're going to focus on that. So when you have those straight edges, that could be all you're seeing. And so why I'm showing you this is I told her, try to make it a little more meandering. So this is what she did. Huge, huge difference. So now this is the soft edges, as you can see. And so now our eye can actually travel through the painting. So from that idea to that idea, softer edges, and our eye travels. So this is very successful. I'm really pleased with this. So pretty right through here. So it's a huge difference. Just those lines. Eliminate too many straight lines, make it softer, more organic, and then you can travel and move. And then here for this one, this is also, I believe this is in our desert landscape course, or the extension, I believe, or part 2. I can't remember. Sue can put that in the chat. So what I see here, it looks like you're using 140-pound paper, which is just fine. And you did an excellent job with your streaming color. It's using that same idea that we're looking at in these other paintings that we did. But what I like you to do is maybe when it comes to the rain, is use a little bit stronger color. So that's what you're all learning right now. And it's just a constant evolution through that. And I think before I go into that demonstration, let's take a look at this. Okay, I'm going to close my landscapes out. So last week we did some little exercises like this, and these are some of the students that have submitted their work. And let me make sure what you're seeing there. Great. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is you've got your highlight, highlight, highlight. And if you've never joined us before, you might not know what in the world I'm talking about. You might want to go to last week's lesson, because what we really try to do is curve some of those petals. So let's look at this. The same idea. I'm looking at your highlight, and successful. Because what ends up happening is a lot of times everybody's just trying to fill everything in. You're not moving your watercolor and color around. And so if you're using this exercise, this was successful, you could always even take it further and fine tune it and develop it more, but you've got the idea, and that's what I wanted to see. So then when you've got this painting up here and this one, you've done a great job with your water drops, excellent. But when I look at your overall painting, you've done it right on track. It's a great exercise for building color. What I would have done before you added your water drops is build that color intensity up a bit more. So when I look at this, I'm seeing that you're not using enough color in your water to color blend. You're using more water, and that's okay. But what I would do then is build my color up layer upon layer to get that color intensity that I wanted. So that is, I'm thinking, is that what I'm doing today a little bit? No, we'll continue to work on that as we go. But so great job with your water drops. Excellent. Okay, so then that exercise is leading us into this. So let's see. I see that it's blurry for you. It just says Facebook user. This is the internet, and that's why I like the Zoom meetings. That is clearer than this. And this is the best I have right now. So it'll hopefully get better once I get a a faster internet once it gets closer. So, all right, you can let me know in the chat if that is working for you or not. The content's great. Oh, thank you, Gay. That helps. That helps. All right, so then let's go ahead and take a look. Is there anything else I wanted to share with you? I think one last thing. I'll go back into our course here. So another reason why it could be a little slow is because I have a lot of windows open. I have a lot of information that I want to share with you, which takes up bandwidth. All right, so here, if you're in the Watercolor Emotions group, don't forget all the content, all the lessons is in here. And the Facebook group is a bonus and additional. So you just would scroll down, start at the top, and work your way down. Okay, and if you have any questions about that, just put that in the chat and Sue can respond to you, or I'll respond to you later. Okay, now I think it's time for us to go over into my lessons. So I'm going to switch my screen and I am going to up my light in here. It's raining today. Yay. So thrilled about that. Let's get more light. Okay. And let's see if we can make that all work. Okay. There we go. Close enough. Scoot that over to the side. And hopefully we still have power. That's all the fun stuff. Like ideally, I would like more light on this. Let's see if I can scoot this over without it washing out. Like I said, this is not my regular studio, and it's a little discombobulating, but we'll just have to make it work. Okay, so thinking about what I was talking about before with the softer blending, this is the same idea. Like if I wanted to have this more intense, I would go ahead and build that color up by layering on top. And what Mary did was basically something like that, that soft blending of color. This one is just, it was a demonstration for a class, so it's in progress. Soft colors, and like I said, just working my way down through here. Here's that little tube thing. You just put your tube right inside there and turn that little handle and you'll squeeze out all that additional color. Now for watercolor and live, oh, we did something else. But you can see here, this is the idea, trying to move and blend those colors. So how would this apply to a painting? Let's look at this. Okay. It's the same idea, like something like that would be rolling areas over. So that's why that demonstration was really important. Okay. And then what I did for the interview this week was try to show you how to do some negative painting that you can do for those stamens in the center of flowers. So you might want to review that. So what I'm doing right now is wrapping my mind around what and how I want to handle this. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. So let's go to, let's see. There we go. A little bit more like this. Okay, so now a lot of times people ask me, do I stand up or sit down when I'm painting? When I'm in my studio, when I'm working on a large flower, I'm going to be standing up. When I am in here, the table's lower, so I'm actually sitting down. But when I'm working with large washes of color, like let's look at this, something like, if I can get this off, like something like this, I'm going to be standing up, and this is the idea, moving and rolling colors around. So we're going to scoot that over to the side. And I'm basically just warming my mind up for this. So the brushes that I plan on using are my number 30 natural hair brush, a number 20 Sable Synthetic Blend, a number 14 Sable Synthetic Blend, a number 8 Sable Synthetic Blend, a number 3 Synthetic. Let's scoot that over to the side. And now you will also have this PDF available to you if you are in the Watercolor Emotion group or beyond the courses. It's near the meetings. Just look for, I don't remember what I called it, but it's something like this. It has the date on it. So you can go ahead and print out the line drawing. This is a 11 by 15. And also, if you're in one of my other groups, you can go to follow the link on the email that I sent, and that will actually take you to my website where you can download the PDF and reference photo. Now, speaking of reference photos, that would be a great idea if I knew where I put that. Okay, hold on. It's really challenging having to move from my studio to another area to try to do all the painting. So I'm just going to try to get my image up. Okay, there we go. And the other thing that I'm trying to pay attention to is the lighting. So you can see we've got challenges. All right, so here, this is the reference photo. Let's take a look at that. Let's see what you're looking at. Now, I'm not really taking my time to paint this. I wanted to show you how I am going to start this. Instead of painting every little petal one at a time, I'm going to create a unifying wash, mingle my color, I was going to leave some petals light, but I changed my mind when I did this demonstration, and then how to get a bit of depth in here by using some negative painting. So I'm going to scoot that over to the side. And then the other way, like I don't make formal color charts where you have, I don't really refer back to them at all. What I like to do is experiment, mingle colors, and I usually use a scrap piece of paper. But here I'm using a little notebook, just something like that. I don't really care what it's on. I just want to get an idea of the color. And let's see what you're seeing, all right? Okay, so now I'm deciding, how do I want to approach this? Most people are going to paint one petal at a time. So I have a series. I think what I'll do is show you the series first and then give you the demonstration. Okay, so here I would have my line drawing like this. I'll scoot that over there. And then I'll come up with a light wash. And then I'm looking for my negative space. And then I need to go deeper. Oh, maybe that one should be in this one. There we go. It's in the wrong order. Okay, so something like that, starting to darken my values, then go deeper. And this still needs work. So let's go ahead. Now, usually this Q&A, the 30-minute Q&A, is meant to answer your questions and do that. But since we were on a roll of rolling those petals over and all that, I thought, let's do this. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for next week because there's Watercolor Live. So here, now I'm thinking about what kind of brush do I want to use to apply the water inside my flower. Do I want to use a synthetic brush or my hockey brush? I am debating also if I need to, I'm going to bring it in a little bit more for you. I think like that. Hopefully you can see all that. And if I use my hockey brush, it's going to have more of a puddle. If I use this one, it's less water. Do I want to use this? I could use this. And then I might miss a lot of areas. So basically, let's just go ahead I know this is going to lay the water down that I need, so I'm going to just go ahead and put some water in right on top. Now, one thing I found with this particular pencil that I used yesterday, some of the graphite lifted, which wasn't perfect, and that doesn't usually happen for me, so sometimes that can be a problem, and then I might want to wipe up any of that loose graphite. So what I'm doing right now is actually lifting some of that excess water off of my surface. Let's see if you can see that. So that way it's not really it's shiny, but it's not really runny like the puddle that I would use in some of my other flowers. So I'll let that sit for just a second, just because I haven't made a puddle. And the color of color in my palette. Now I wanted to play with some different color today. So in the material thing, I just said use a yellow, blue, and red. So you can see my palette's a little messy. If I use a 14 to mix my color, I'm not going to mix enough color. So I'm going to go ahead and use my number 20, my 20 blend, not a natural brush, because if I use a natural brush, I'm going to get stuck color inside the hairs, and I'm going to add more water into my blend, and I'm not going to get the color intensity that I'm looking for. So I'm going to use my number 20. So I'm going to get water, bring it into my palette, make a little puddle. So I'm not going from the well directly here. I get the water first in here. In fact, I might make another little puddle over here. Now, I decided to experiment with a few colors, and I actually left the tubes up in my studio. So I'm going to work with whatever I have here. But I also have a Mayan Yellow by Daniel Smith, and I have a Quinacridone Red, something I've never used before. I've never used either one of those colors. And the reason why I chose those two colors was, for one, their transparency, and thinking I might get more of a peachy rose, because my tendency is to go a bit more dramatic, but that doesn't suit everybody. And it really doesn't matter. Every artist is going to have their own personal preference. So I'm taking a little bit of that yellow. You can see how much I'm taking out of my well, mixing it into my little puddle there. And if I just went like this, use that, it's not going to move. You can maybe see a little bit how that water is, maybe not. Maybe you can't see that. Let's see. Because like I said, the lighting and all that. Now, when it comes to my courses, as you know, most of you know anyway, what I'll do is I film it in a higher quality so you don't have this grainy look to it or the all that. But for the demonstrations that we do within the groups, it'll be a little different. So here we go. I'm getting a little puddle right here. So hopefully you can see the amount of water. Okay. And I don't want to waste my color, so I'm going to go ahead and just put it over on the side, just like that. And ultimately, I end up making a giant mess and mixing them all together anyway. So I'm going to scoot those over to the side. Let's look at the surface. Okay, it's dull to a low sheen. Now, this is not ideal because my color is not going to move. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay. So I'm going to grab my color so you can see. I think I'll go around the outside edges. I just want you to see how the color doesn't really move as much. That's because I don't have enough water on the surface. Okay, and I know this is very typical and very common. I can still work with this. Okay, but see, if we don't have water on the surface, it's not moving. So I could take my 30, or I could take my Hake brush, and then I'm going to come back in, touch the edges, and try to force it to move. And if I just go like that, I'm wiping the color. So I'm going to wiggle my brush to break up any lines that might be developing. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So let's get some water back in here. Now I know there's a big accumulation of water here. This is just a demonstration. So this is 90-pound paper, but I would use 140-pound paper. And I also use the 300. I really like that, but when I'm doing a demonstration, it's not really necessary for me to use the 300-pound paper. Now, my intention was to retain some of my lighter petals up here. And I thought, oh, okay, then I'll come back in and work with that later. And I thought, you know what, let's just take advantage of it and get some color in here, however you want to. If you want to be more accurate and follow the reference photo, you can. But I'm going to show you the basic idea. So I'm just going to get some color in here. That's turned more peach because the colors have mingled. And I'm not really looking at the reference photos so much right now. I just want you to have the idea. I'm going to go along the edges there. And I think I'm going to bring a little bit of that yellow right into the center. So I want a cleaner yellow. Take my yellow, move it over to the side, maybe add a little bit of water. I don't need a lot because I have a lot of water in my surface here. And maybe throw a few strokes in. Okay, I can do this as long as I have enough water on the surface. Okay. Then let's move that around. You can see the shine. Let's go ahead and get a bit more color in here. Now I'm thinking, do I want to use a 20 or a 14? If I use a 20, I might end up adding too much color that I won't have any highlights, but then I might have stronger color. So those are the thoughts I might be having. Let's go ahead, get a bit more color in here. Again, thinking about the amount of color or water that I already have on the surface. I'm going to just throw some color in here so we get a foundation. Now, if you're doing it, you're going to take more time than I am. And then let's move that around. Okay, so we basically have a foundation, and then that would dry. Okay, so we'll just scoot that over to the side and bring out our dried version. Now here, I may have used a lot more water in here, but it's the same idea. And also, once it dries, it's going to be lighter. So what I'm thinking about, let's look at the reference photo. Okay, just like that. I have a little yellow there. I've got some pinks on the outside. So how can I pull out my petals? I'm going to go ahead and use maybe a number 20 brush because I want to be able to have a nice stroke color. And then let's think about our lighter petals. Our lighter petals are right here, 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 here. Now, once you have your line drawing down, you'll want line drawing down here, you'll want to refer back to your reference photo to see if there's any petals or any details that you need. So I don't need that, but you might want to do that. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I want to go and add more color and separate my petals. I think I'll scoot all of this to the side. So maybe you can see my color a little better. And try to find a spot for my brushes. That's good enough. Okay. Actually, maybe I can even, is that going to be, I put my, maybe that'll help me to put my reference photo up. So when I do a painting, I'm not always, I'm looking at the reference photo. I refer to it as a reference photo. It's not like I'm trying to represent exactly what I'm seeing or being perfect, because then I think that we can lose some of that spontaneity in here. All right, so thinking of how I want to build my color up, pull the petals out, I would just go ahead and let's think about this one's going to be a little lighter. So I'm going to do a little negative painting, basically. I have my line drawing down, but I'm painting the shape around the lightest one. I'm working on dry paper. Like I said, I haven't really used this color before. This is the quinacridone red, and I think it's a very pretty color. And I'm going to go along the edges like this. So I'm thinking about some of my darker values here. And let's pull out some of those shapes. Maybe I'll go along the edge. Okay. Maybe I'll go a little stronger. And I can see that I'm going to run out of my quinacridone red, but no big deal. Water, remove the extra water, and I'm going to soften the edge of color on the outside, not that light petal that I'm trying to keep light. Okay, so maybe I'll pull this up. Now you're going to take a lot more time than I am. I'm just giving you an idea of how you might consider approaching it. Okay. And then I'm going to look for some other petals. All right, through here, we're going to do the same thing right here. So instead of adding more yellow into it, I can always do that. I'm looking for my mid-tone values like that. And don't do too many at one time. Otherwise, it's going to dry faster than you can work. And then I'll soften this edge like that. Okay, and then I'll shift my color, maybe bring a little bit more of that yellow into it. Let's go ahead and do the same thing up here. Now you might be wondering, well, how does that exercise that we did last week apply to this? Well, I can't really do that. I can't do those finishing touches until I establish my foundation. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead right through here. And you're hopefully starting to get the idea. Then I don't want this color all to be flat, so I'm going to use my natural hair brush, which is my number 30, and I'm going to soften that edge of color. And as I get into the center, I'm going to reduce the size of my brush so I don't fill it with too much color. If it's too much color, it's going to look flat. Ugh, just made a mess. That's okay. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead right in here, get a little color. Maybe I'll do a little bit up here. So let's see, what in the world am I looking at? I'm looking for inside the flower. Then I'll let the color transition into a lighter value. Inside the flower, transition as it goes out to the outside in a lighter value. Okay. Water, remove the extra water, and then soften the edge and soften the edge. Then let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. Let's see, I probably needed to do a little bit more with my drawing, so I'll just go ahead. So like I said, refer to your reference photo and see if the drawing I have is exactly what you want, or if you want to add something. So let's say here, I'm not sure what I want to do, how I want to add those colors in there or the petals. So I'm still just working on the foundation. I'm going to just get some color in here while leaving some lighter areas. Okay, none of this, it doesn't have to be perfect at this time. We're just trying to get inside the flower. Then I'll take my number 30 and soften a few of those edges. And if I've gone over the line, so we don't have overlapping color later, I'm going to use my 30, soften that edge, and soften the edge down here. Okay, so I think you can see how it's starting to develop. And then here we have a few pencil lines, and with this petal, let's look at this. Okay. So with this petal right here, I'm thinking, do I want to go darker on this side or that side? Because if I go darker here, like we did over there, that's going to stand out. But here, that's not necessarily the way it looks. So I'm going to go darker along the edge of the petal. Okay, remove the extra water and soften that edge. So that is basically what I'd be thinking about. So let's go ahead and scoot this over to the side. And here we are. All right, so now when we're in this stage, what I want to do is try to go a little darker. You're going to be more thoughtful and careful than I am. And then I want to start going darker with some of my values and separating those petals. Now, if I just use some of the same color, it's going to turn into a darker value, but it won't give me the depth that I want. So what I might consider then, and that's when you're going to refer back to your little book like this. Let's do that, actually. Now, I have a tendency of loving to work with my palette mud. So I'm going to smush all of that together. And why I said blue is I almost thought about using the Winsor Violet Dioxazine and a darker purple, which I could do. But yesterday I experimented with this. Let's go ahead and mix a stronger value there. Actually, let's try this for a second before I go and add the blue. Now, you don't have to do it the way I do it. This is just my way, my preference. And why I'm doing it this way is because I'm trying to get more depth inside my flower. Okay, we're just adding a little more yellow. Let's put that over here. And I'm going to get that blue in there in just a second. And then I'm going to soften just a little bit and soften. So we're basically just repeating over and over what we're doing to get that deeper value. Let's see, is this dry? Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and maybe go a little darker right in there. And when I say blue, it's not going to be much. It's just the tiniest amount, usually. Okay, so you can see how I'm looking for those areas inside the flower. Let's do the same thing over here. And then I'll soften this edge on this side. And then just work my way around. Let's pull that out and maybe a little bit over here. And then I'll pull that out. Okay, and then down here, let's think about this for a second. Maybe I want this to be darker through here. Okay, and go a little darker right through there. And soften. So I would take my time and work my way around each petal. Over here we have a lot of lines, so how can I separate that? I'm thinking, do I want to go along the edge? Let's do that. Let's go along the edge up here, just like I did before. Take my water, remove the excess, and go along the edge. This is how I'm going to avoid having my pencil lines. That's another question people ask all the time. Okay, and then you can see the difference between this here and that edge. That would be very similar to what we did last week with that little exercise. You're just going to continue to look for all those little details. Now, for that little blue color, I was using you don't have to dive into this, but I was using a Winsor blue red shade. I'm just taking a little dot. You can see it's not much. And I might tone it down just a little bit like that. I would like that to be dry, which it's not. And then let's go ahead and maybe think about adding a few little shadows. Maybe I need a little more blue. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, if you've taken classes from other people, they're going to have different ideas, and they may suggest something different, or they may say, oh, I would never do that. You just do what works for you. Okay, I'm going to go along that edge. And then I might soften this. So I'm trying to pull my petals apart. Okay, Okay, and it depends on the lighting that I want. I can, even if I didn't like that color, I could always glaze over it again with this color if I wanted. So, okay, everything's pretty wet. Let's go ahead and go right in here. All right, so I'm going to jump ahead. I think you get the idea on that. So it'll be something similar to this. Now, if I was doing this, I'm thinking, do I want to go deeper inside my flower? Do I want to build my color up? What is my goal? Do I want to start working on those water drops, which I could? Do I want to roll those petals over? What do I want to do? Now, I think what would be, let me take a look at your chat for just a second. See if I'm missing anything. Okay. Great. Thank you so far. I'm just looking at the last few that have come in. Thank you so much. So yeah, ideally it would be wonderful. I can't wait till we get a better internet, and hopefully it's fast and hopefully not archaic by the time it gets here. All right, so looking at this, I could go ahead and start separating some of those petals, but I think to be efficient with our time, let's go ahead and try to roll some of them. I'm going to clean off my number 14, take my 30 instead of my wash brush, and do I want to go wet on dry? I can always go wet on dry here. I see that the sun is coming out, so hopefully that doesn't change the color all the way around too much. So I think here, I want to roll this petal over. Let's work on this, rolling this, and the lighter ones back. So I'm going to go ahead, wet it with clean water, cleanish water like that. And since it's a small shape, I'm going to go to my number 8 blend. Now I don't really want a shadow color, so I need to make more of a puddle. So I'll take that color, I'm going to get a little bit down here. And then let's go, I'm looking for my highlight. I already have a highlight there. So I'm just going to work with what I already have and encourage that highlight to show up like that. And then maybe soften the edge like this. Now, right now, this is, since I'm casting to Facebook and our YouTube page there, what's going to happen is on YouTube, I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time here. I'm trying to talk about this and that. It's visible right now for those that aren't in the group, but it's going to disappear very soon, just so you know. All right, so here I want to roll this over. I'm thinking, this looks a little flat up there. I think I want to roll this over. I'm going to add a little color. It also depends on how I'm holding my brush. Go along here. And these demonstrations are really for my groups, just so you know. It's my Beyond the Courses group is also invited to join us here. And the all of my groups are invited here. I think that works. All right. So you can see now this and this compared to that, and that. This has a lot more shape. That's a lot more shape. That's flat, flat, flat. So let's go ahead and get some shape in there. That also needs a shadow. I'm just going to wet it. And might as well wet this at the same time. And like I said, when you do this, you may find an extra petal in there, and that's just fine. Okay, I'm going to go along that edge. Oops, I think I chose the wrong petal. So in that case, take my 30, soften the edge. And soften the edge there. Oops, there we go. And let's get a little shape to this. And soften that edge. I think I'll want a shadow here instead of softening that, so I'll leave that alone. I'm thinking maybe a little bit here. I don't want to lose my highlight. So I want to be careful with that. So now let's compare that to this and that one. You can see how flat that is. And I'm not going to, if I'm careful, I'm not going to have overlapping edges. My color will go right up to my pencil line. You won't be able to see them. So there's all those things involved. Okay, I'm just wetting this and wetting this. And then over here, let's just go and get a little color in. Remember, it's from the sweep of the stroke. If I stop abruptly, I'm going to have a dot on it, and I don't want a dot. I want a nice, smooth stroke. We talk a lot about this in the Fearless Flowers course, and that's what the first lesson is about. I think I'll roll that over just a little bit. And then I'm going to soften it. And soften. Okay, so we've got a pretty good, it's looking pretty good. Now it's just fine tuning. If I want to go darker here, push some of those back. Maybe I'll do that for just a second, and then maybe I'll try to pull out a water drop. Now, if you look at the reference photo, you'll see there's tons of water drops on here, but I'm not really focusing on that. I'm going to choose just a few of them. And actually, I think I'm going to bring a little, maybe quinacridone magenta or permanent rose or permanent alizarin crimson, whatever you want. I'm thinking I want this to be a bit more dramatic. So I'm going to try to, because I don't want really just more of the same color. I want it to pop. So go along the outside edge. So you can see how that has come forward. And I could use my number 30 to soften that edge, or I can use my number 20, get it wet, and do basically the same thing. And then I'll just go ahead and pull this out too. So basically it's just repeating what we've done and fine tuning. And if the color is too dark, just add more water to it. I think maybe that's just a tad too dark, but you get the idea. All right, so let's see if we could add a water drop somewhere. All right, let's see. I think over here, what we'll do is just get a paper towel. And I just want to think about how I want to approach this. So I could just go ahead and wet it, just like we've done before in our water drop lesson. And I could do a few at the same time if you wanted. And you could scrub it out or use a, I don't really want to use a scrub brush so much because it can damage the surface of the paper. So I'm using a synthetic right here, removing the extra water and color right here. And if we want to highlight, I could either use masking or a little dot of white, which I don't like to use. I don't like to use the white. So we have our little circles, and I'm going to come back into my mud, and then I'm trying to get a little contrast somehow. Go along the pencil line, maybe along the top of the pencil line, just like that. And over here, let's see, how do I want to handle this? Now I know today is going longer, but we have a lot to do, and I'll wrap this up very soon. Okay, just so basically water, remove the extra water, remove the color, and just drop that in. You can always refer back to the water drop lesson, and where I have that within the Facebook group for my Watercolor in Motion people, should be under units. Okay, and maybe I'll just jump down here to some of these larger ones. I need those to dry. Wetting the inside of my water drop. Wetting the inside of my water drop right in there. And remember, we also talked about reshaping our drops. You can do that. Instead of going in a circle, just go in a different shape. over here. I'm trying to lift some of that previous color. You're going to be more careful than I am. It'll take more time. Let's just lift a little bit of that color out. Okay. And I might even lift a little bit of that out. So let's take a look at where we're at on that. And ideally, then I can get the shadow in, but it's still damp, so it's not going to be a clean shadow. So I'm going to try to hold off on that for just a second. And then I think I'm going to take my number 3 brush. Let me think about what I want to do here. Oh, I think I'll just go ahead and try to get that shadow in after all. I would rather have this nice and clean, and that would mean I would want this to be dry. And maybe I'll add a little color along that pencil line so that stands out a bit more. Soften that edge of color. So I'm doing exactly what I did through the rest of the flower right here in this little water drop. And I'm going to soften maybe this edge. I don't like that way the color is crawling. And then I'll do the same thing over here. Let's get a little color in here. Let's take a look at what I'm doing. And then soften the edge. So what I could do actually is just maybe revisit this next time too and do a little bit more on the water drops possibly. Let's see where we're at. I think I'm going to go ahead and get a shadow underneath here. Something like that. And so I think you get the idea. So I'm going to come back in and check the chat. So this gives you the bulk of everything, and it just takes time and patience and for you to continue to paint. All right, so I'm going to come back here. Let's see if I'm even here. Okay, I have to switch screens. Oh, before I do, let me change something. There's so much light coming in here now. Move a few things around. And let's see. Details. Okay. Oh my gosh. I came out of the light. Okay. So let's see. Hopefully you see me. Okay. That's all good. All right, everyone. So there you have it. That was the demonstration for today. And thank you so very much for joining me. And for my group members and Watercolor Emotion, just go ahead, post your paintings within the group, or you can post it within the Watercolor Emotion where it says post your paintings. And I actually look more for what you've done in the Facebook group. And for those in the Beyond the Courses, if you'd like to go ahead and paint this, you can post that in that group too. And I will be seeing you guys in just a few minutes in our members meeting. So thank you everybody for joining me today. And I hope to see you soon. And also next week is Watercolor Live. Don't forget that. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. If I can figure out how to do this. There we go. Yeah. Bye.